My name is Emma Zuercher, and this is an interview about crybabies for the GNV Business History Oral History Project run by the Inquire Capitalism Program of the History Department at the University of Florida. Understand that for us and for the public, the information you are providing is a gift, as it is an incredible historical resource, and we dearly appreciate it. This interview will be as a part of the UF Oral History Collections and the UF Digital Collections and YouTube. Please introduce yourself. What's your full name, and can you please spell it?
Yeah, my name is Grace Glennon, Grace, Glennon.
All right, and then can you just tell me a little bit about yourself,
Yeah, and pertaining to the business or just in general?
Where you're from.
Yeah, I'm actually born and raised in Gainesville, Florida, so ACR. I did leave for a time. I moved to Portland, Oregon, and lived out there for a while, and then moved back in 2017 to Gainesville, where I opened my first business, which was Afternoon Restaurant, and then Crybabies is our sister business, and then Baby J's after that. So yeah, I worked in restaurants to put myself through college out in Portland, which is how I ended up in hospitality and doing that work. I got my undergrad in social work, so I was doing kind of that and still working in restaurants. And then my husband and I came to visit family, and we were like, here in January. So we were like, oh, it's so nice. Yeah. Should we move back? And we thought if we move back, we want to be our own bosses and have our own business. So that's how it all came to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you said you went to school for social work. Mm-hmm. Does your husband, how did your business experience, how did you, figure all that out?
Yeah, we definitely learned a lot on the job. I did have a mentor in hospitality. She was my boss at a job I had in Portland, and then she opened her own restaurant, and then I worked for her there. So I was able to lean on her with all sorts of questions. And then my husband had his own business, so he was used to kind of the entrepreneurial lifestyle and making that happen. He built furniture in Portland, custom pieces, and then build out spaces. So his experience with all of that helped us afford to build out Afternoon, build out Crybabies. We didn't really have to hire people to do that because we did it ourselves with our other partner. So kind of we both had these different skill sets where mine was more with people and his is more with building supplies and design. And so that came together to start the restaurants. But once they were up and running, a lot of it was just making tons of mistakes and learning, because we didn't go to business school. I don't know if that would have necessarily helped us at all. So yeah, it was definitely learning on the job. And I feel like we're 7 years in and finally got it right and know what we're doing. So it took some time.
So do you want to talk a little bit about, starting Afternoon and the whole first business aspect,
Yeah. So Afternoon was it was really hard to get it started, because when you're starting your first business, you have nothing to show for yourself necessarily. So people have to have faith in you and that you'll execute it and that they want to put their money into what you're doing. It was much easier with Crybabies because they saw Afternoon and they were like, oh yeah, of course. And we're like, oh, look at this. But when you're doing your first one, it's really, really hard. So we had sold our house in Portland and had a little nest egg from that transaction, which allowed us to have kind of the starter capital to start Afternoon, plus friends and family loans. And we definitely underestimated how much it would cost. There's so much hidden things when you're starting a business, GRU deposits, just endless fees and licensing and all that kind of stuff. So we ended up actually we needed $10,000 more to make it happen. And we just had no more money. We were like, we don't know what we're gonna do. And Ron DiFilippo, who's a Gainesville legend, he owned the Swamp the whole time it was right here. Now he owns Max Drive-Thru. He's a family friend and heard what we were doing, and he's such a hospitality guy that he was like, I'll just give you the 10. If you fail, just rip up what you owe me. And if you succeed, take 5 years to pay me back. And so, nice. Yes, he was like, why are you doing this? Which is pretty much what everyone says that runs a business. When you tell them that you're going to open a restaurant, they're like, why? Which I never quite understood until now. And I get it. It's just really hard. But with his help at the end there, we were able to build it out and start afternoon. And that was in 2017.
So what specifically kind of inspired you to want to like start a restaurant, a brunch restaurant like in Gainesville?
Well, we both had a hospitality background. My husband, when he lived in Gainesville, worked at the Top for about 10 years. It's like all the way from dishwasher to bar manager, like gotcha. the whole gamut. So he did have a lot of hospitality experience in that. And then our other silent partner at the time, he's now like an official partner in Crybabies, but my husband Kyle had hired him at the Top. So he was a bartender for a really, really long time. And he was like, I have some money that I've saved up from bartending. I want to invest in what you guys are doing. So he was kind of like our first investor for afternoon and just kept working at the Top. And then he wanted to do a bar. So then we did Crybabies. But when we came back to visit friends and family, we were like, okay, if we move back here, take advantage of the housing market in Portland, sell our house, move back here, what do we want to do? We had actually like a bunch of ideas. We were like, laundromat, this, that. And then we asked a bunch of our friends that live here. We were like, what do you want to see in Gainesville? Like, what would be cool for you guys to see? And everyone's like, I want like a restaurant I can go at during the day. Kind of thing. And we would always frequent to cafes in Portland all the time. And Portland has a much older demographic, like everyone's in their 30s and 40s, and they all work from home, even like pre-pandemic. There was a lot of like freelancers and artists. So these cafes would be really busy during the week. And we were like, oh, what if we could bring that to Gainesville and have a place for like locals and like young professionals and all that kind of stuff. And then, we were like, let's do a brunch restaurant. And we had a friend who was a chef at the time who helped us as well. I kind of just was like, let's just try it.
Wow.
We're like that with all things. I mean, that's just like how we kind of are. So.
I mean, it's impressive for sure. How did you name Afternoon?
I wish it were like a cute story. I had we had a huge list of names. And then one day I was just like, woke up and I was like, wouldn't Afternoon be cute? It was just like...
It just came to you.
Yeah, like it's, the way it looks. And then it's kind of funny. People had a hard time with it because they're like, you're open in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But it's just like, who cares? So, yeah.
So you had Afternoon opened in 2017?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, September 2017.
And then Crybabies opened in like...
2019, like
April, May.
Yeah, right after graduation or like around graduation, so May of 2019.
So when did you kind of decide that you wanted a new, to start a new project?
It was for Jay, our partner. We would go to the Dime and have drinks and hang out and just talk about because at the time he wasn't involved in Afternoon. He was just a silent investor. And he was still working at the Top. And we're like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what's your plan? Like, he's one of the hardest working people I know. And he's really good with money and he's really fun. And I was just like, what do you want? Like, what do you want to do? And he was like, I want to open my own bar. And I was like, well, then let's do it. So we did it. I feel like I did it for Jay.
I love spontaneity.
Yeah, we really are. That's probably why we've done these things. Because I think if you think too long, you're not going to do it. Because it's so much risk, and it's like the margins everyone's learned like after COVID what it takes to run a restaurant and how much it costs, and there's not really any money in it. And so I just wanted Jay to like have what he wanted, really. And so we use like our sweat equity and our own like seed money into Afternoon to kind of parcel up the partnership, so we were all equal when we went into Crybabies. Okay. Yeah.
That's nice. And I read an article where it said your friend came up with the name for Crybabies and you just thought it was funny.
Yeah. My friend Nico, she is an artist and very creative. And she was with us when we were like drinking at the Dime. And she was like, Crybabies would be funny. And we were like, yeah. Because again, we're just like, sure.
Why not?
Yeah.
So I know you run Afternoon and you also are part of Crybabies. And you work with your husband. Like, how is that? Like, how do you guys kind of split up the work? And how does that, like, I don't know, business affect your relationship and, you know?
Yeah, it definitely does. All my friends are like, how do you do it? I don't really know how we do it. There's a lot of things. So our roles have recently changed. So with me going into school, I've shifted. I used to primarily run afternoon. Jay ran Crybabies, and Kyle was kind of my husband was kind of like the admin / fixing everything all the time, because he has that skill, bless his heart. And
saves a lot of money.
It saves a ton of money. And so that was kind of like, and he also is like really into design. So we do all our flyers and our merch and all that kind of stuff. So, and then eventually coffee as well. So that was kind of like, he was kind of everywhere. I was running all the stuff at afternoon, and then Jay at Crybabies. And, but now it's shifted where I'm our admin person, so that I can, working with people like I was, just like isn't sustainable if I'm wanting to do another avenue as well. So I do all our payroll, insurance. I still meet with all our managers and like help people brainstorm and deal with a lot of like emotional conflict and things like that. So still doing that. I think what works with working with my husband is it took a couple really rough years, like of working with your partner and having a lot of stress, because like the beginning of businesses are really, really stressful. So it was not only working with my husband, but being under a lot of stress together. I think in a bizarre way, it helped that we were both in it together, because I think if one of us was dealing with it and the other wasn't, we wouldn't understand like the gravity of the stress and the amount of like physical and mental time that goes into restaurants, especially in the beginning. I think we probably would have gotten divorced during that time if one of us like didn't, because I've seen it happen. Like my friend in Portland owned a restaurant. Her husband was a PE teacher, and he was like, "You're always there. You're never home." Like it caused a lot of issues. And so I think in a weird way that really helped. And then we learned each other's working styles. We're very different in that way, but I think it's good. And our recent switch around has been like the sweet spot. Like I always assumed, because of my background in social work, that I would be like the HR kind of like people thing. But it's actually been much better the other way. I think you need someone who I've worked on it, but like you need someone with really strong boundaries with employees. And he's like that, where I'm like, oh my God, tell me your life story. And it's like, get down to like what the real issue is. So that in that setting, it doesn't work.
Therapist,
right. Then. I need to be like, okay, this is what we dedicate this time to. But, so yeah. And we also went to couples counseling. I feel like that's not talked about enough. And it was like amazing. And that was more recent. We did that. And it was just like so great. Really validating about how hard it is to work with your partner. And especially when you have like business issues and business stress, and maybe one person has caused it, or, you know, whatever it may be. So yeah, we've made it work for sure.
I was going to say, during the challenging times, I feel like it would be, I don't know, hard.
It's like good and hard. I mean, it's like bad and good, because it's almost like you're in the storm together versus apart. And there's a lot of power in that, because you can lean on each other and really understand like the stress. But then at the same time, both people are kind of spiraling, and you need someone to be like, it's fine. So we take turns with that. And it's also gotten way, way, way better, because in 2020, we fostered a baby and ended up adopting her and became parents. And so being a parent and working in the restaurant industry, it forces you to like, you can't be there all the time. So you have to put a lot of other things onto your managers and the people you're paying to be in charge, and kind of let go a bit. Like you have to. Yeah. So having a kid has actually given us way better work-life balance, because we're like, sorry, can't be there. I have to go get this child.
Great excuse.
Yeah, really good excuse, actually.
What were your goals? You know, when you opened afternoon, what were your goals? Did you see yourself expanding and making more businesses, or were you, content with afternoon and you just wanted to see it succeed?
At the time, I think, we were really content with it. yeah, afternoon's like our favorite child. No offense, crybabies. But, you know, I'm the firstborn, so they're special. I would speak for myself. I think I would have been totally fine with just afternoon. My partners, however, especially my husband, does not. He has so many ideas and wants expansion in a lot of ways. So I think without him, I wouldn't have done these other things, but I'm glad that we've done these other things because it's helped us make actual like paychecks where we didn't with just afternoon, especially in the beginning. We just like, I don't know how we did it really. So yeah, I think the expansion piece is on my partners for sure.
Now we're going to shift mainly to Crybaby specifically. How was it received by the community? Because it's, you know, right there in that area with all the other bars and cocktail bars and stuff. So how was it received by the other business owners and the community?
Gosh, downtown is it's in a weird phase right now. And I think we're starting to do things to help it. I'm on the economic advisory board for the county. And I see that like the Gainesville Redevelopment Association is like trying to make downtown more vibrant, and we're figuring out what the issues are and everything. But in 2019, it's so tough because it's like right within a year it was COVID. So then downtown's landscape completely changed because everyone was out of the offices and everything. But when we first got down there, a lot of people were like, it won't work because that corner has been so many different things. But I've heard that that's all you hear when you open a business, unfortunately, is people being like, it won't work and various things like that. So yeah, Crybaby's got a lot of like that building's cursed. You guys aren't going to like make it, but then at the same time, people that were like, we're so excited, like a new bar. And especially Jay being our partner, he's very like loved in the community, especially downtown and working at the top for forever. And he's very goofy and fun. So I think people were excited to like see him do his own thing and support him in that way. And then also like the beautification of the space, I think people were like appreciative of because yeah, downtown just needs like all the love it can get. So yeah, I feel like it was like half and half. Some people just being like, that's crazy because that place is cursed. And then other people being like, I'm excited for a new place to go.
Yeah. I definitely get that. Downtown's an interesting area. So kind of focusing on the community, how has Crybabies, like, do you guys have connections in the community? Like, do you work with organizations or what's your kind of relationship with the locals?
I feel like afternoon was kind of our anchor with that stuff. We do a lot of farm dinners and fundraisers, and we work with Bread of the Mighty and all that kind of stuff. With Crybabies, we have a partnership with the Knot Climbing Gym. So we do silent auction stuff with them and contribute to them, but also we have the Knot employees get 10% or 15% off at Crybabies. And then we have like 10 employees that get free memberships there. So it's like another perk we can offer when we're hiring. It's usually kind of our more like full-time, longer time people that do it, but they're really excited because that partnership like just started. We have one of the main directors of the Knot also works at Crybabies. So she was like, what if we collaborated? So that's really cool and fun. So yeah, and then we have Baby J's, which is like basically Crybaby's little extension, and work with a lot of musicians in town, and even with the UF Jazz program, like they've come through, and so yeah.
That's really interesting. So you kind of touched on this with the Knot, but do you have any more like partnerships or working relationships with other businesses in Gainesville?
Yeah, we have a working relationship with, Scott Shillington and Hal Mendez, who own the Top. They're our landlords.
Oh, wow.
So they bought that building about a year ago from these doctors that owned it. And it's been a really nice thing because they actually care and they take care of the building, and they're just like nice people to work with and have as your landlords and keep the outside nice. And they just put a lot of love into downtown. And we've known them forever because Kyle worked for them for so many years. And yeah, so they're really great. And then they're opening up a little diner across the street from Crybabies. Like it used to be harvest time, like way back in the day. So, and we're going to do coffee with them there and things like that.
That's
so,
nice.
Yeah.
Seems like the Gainesville business world is really small.
Yeah.
Especially downtown.
And, yeah.
So what's your clientele? Because downtown's a very interesting area. You know, you get a lot of different types of people. So what would you say, like, your clientele is, you know, demographically, or, you know, the culture of Crybabies?
I would say Crybabies, you know, you open a business and you think it's going to be one thing, and then the public makes it another. And so that's kind of cool to watch. Like when you give up that, like it happened with Afternoon and it happened with Crybabies. Like we were expecting Crybabies to be this like, we're expecting it to be for people like us who are like in their 30s that want to, you know,
like
young professional. Yeah, that whole thing again. But Gainesville just doesn't quite, it's getting there, but not quite. So Crybabies is a college bar, without a doubt, 100%. And that is a really great thing, but also a hard thing in the summer because we really feel it. I think it's not as much as a college bar as like downtown Fats or places that like completely close for the summer, which I'm happy about that. We do have young professionals that definitely come in and regulars and everything like that. But yeah, on the weekend, it's a college bar.
I'm sure you have some great stories.
I don't know if great is the word, but
interesting.
Yeah, interesting for sure.
I mean, I know you guys have like Facebook. I know that Crybabies doesn't have like I looked and I couldn't find its own website because it's
being made.
Okay.
Currently.
But how like have you guys advertised and marketed it?
Yeah. I mean, I think the downtown visibility helps, just like being on that corner. Instagram was a big thing. Afternoon was like created through Instagram. And I think Crybabies was as well, especially people that come in and like repost or do stories. That happened with Afternoon, and then it just naturally happened with Crybabies. And I think having sister businesses, you cross promote a lot. It's like we'll put flyers at Afternoon and that kind of thing. So I would say visibility, and then just like Instagram,
social media,
social media.
Because you guys have on Afternoon, you have like it like painted there on the side of the building. I've actually taken pictures there with friends and posted it. So
yeah, exactly. So.
What would you say some challenges have been so far? And this can be like related to Crybabies or just, you know, in general.
Oh, geez.
Or
challenges more recently?
It's up to you.
A wide range. I mean, we have challenges with downtown, like I was saying earlier. Obviously, like everyone has issues with parking down there. We have the issue of that corner. It is actually kind of dangerous. It's University in Maine. Yeah. People drive really fast. There's nothing we can do as a county because it's a state road. So like all of University. So it's like that would have to be like FDOT or whatever would have to do it. So we've seen like a lot of hit and runs. Yeah.
Oh no.
Like a significant amount on that corner. I'm always like, do the Gainesville pause always.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what I like to call it. So that can be like, yeah, that can be tough. And I think just people wanting to come downtown as well, which is what the reinvestment that they're trying to do into downtown. I think they have like 14 million allocated to get like the free Fridays a little bit better at Bo Diddley, to maybe decide on what they're going to do with that closed off street, either like lift it and have people park, or there's just a lot of like standstill. And then the city appointed a downtown advisory board, which has 8 members, and a lot of them are downtown business owners and or like a realtor that does a lot downtown. So I'm hopeful that with that kind of stuff, it can resolve some of the issues we have with trying to get people downtown, and then safety.
Yeah. Speaking of challenges, you opened Crybabies in 2019, and then immediately COVID hit. So, you know, how was that? And
geez, I mean, it was really hard. Not something anybody was expecting. We did better than most, I would say. I think that like we're still like recovering in a lot of ways, especially last year. It was like we had like a boom right after people were like finally going back out. Florida's kind of a funky place to like talk about the pandemic because we had restrictions for like 6 weeks and then they're like, bye. But we still, people were still fearful and like hesitant. And then we were trying to do the right thing, like on our own. It was like, you had no guidance. So it was like each person had to decide for themselves, like how they were going to conduct the business and what the rules were going to be. So that was super difficult. When it first happened, we did like a lot of to-go stuff. We did like to-go cocktails. That's when they had open container. The city did that to help businesses. And, I honestly, like, I wish I could even remember. It's like I blocked it out or something. But
traumatic.
I think in a weird, very messed up way, it helped us that there weren't a ton of restrictions because people would come out compared to like Portland or places that were really shut down for a very long time. Like there's no way we would have survived that at all. And then I think it was like 2021, we had like huge boom that summer. It was like everyone was traveling again or whatever year it was, I can't remember. So we were like super busy and then it went like back down with inflation and everyone was like, we're not spending any money. And that was last year. And I feel like last year was one of our worst years.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was like those things, we're discovering that kids have like delays and even like young kids that were brought up during that like 2020 babies because they were put in front of TVs and whatever. It's like with the restaurants, like the delay actually came like much later because we got a lot of government help and we did the PPP loans. We did all that stuff. We would not have survived without those things. But then once that was like settled and everyone's fine now, that's when we felt it because people were just not spending money. So yeah.
I imagine that was incredibly rough because you have to manage your own, like morals and your boundaries.
Yeah.
And then, the people of Gainesville.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, opinions here.
Yeah. Afternoon did much better because it was like daytime. We did a little like to-go window. People would come get food. Yeah. They wanted to support you. That was much easier, but nightlife, it's like
and
you're
out
to gather. Yeah. We have outside seating and Crybabies is like nice and big. So I think people feel a little better, but it's still.
Yeah, I interviewed another bar owner, and he also was like during COVID. It was like, and he's like it was empty. So his nightlife was it was a ghost town.
Yeah.
So when you were starting, like Afternoon and Crybabies, how did you go about like hiring employees, and what were you looking for?
Yeah, when we opened Afternoon, we all just worked there. We had like the chef, me and Kyle. And then the chef's girlfriend, Julia, and that was it. So we worked every day.
Wow.
Yeah. Like Tuesdays I'd work 8 to 4:30 and we'd do like $300 in sales. It was, So that was the beginning times. So we just all worked there. And then as we got busier, we would hire people. Again, I would just like post on Instagram usually. I don't know back then. Yeah, I think it was just like word of mouth. And when you're a new place, people are like interested in like working and trying something new out. So that's how we're able to hire there. And then the same for Crybabies. We like just put out a post and did like a day of interviews, at least for the opening team.
Yeah. Would you say like your employees are like more young professionals or college students or older people?
It's changed over the years. When we first opened Afternoon, I would say it was just like hospitality people that were not in school, just working in restaurants, living in Gainesville. Mid-20s, let's say, at the time. And then Crybabies was the same. It was like career bartenders in the beginning and like some, like maybe a few more students there. Now I would say it's mostly like student age, which has been really actually really good. Our managers are more like hospitality professionals, like in their 30s, been doing it a long time. But all like the staff that work underneath them a lot of our staff is students now.
And you said that's like good?
Yeah, it's been good. I thought for a while that's not what we wanted to do because students are so transient, but it actually is really nice. I think it's good for people to have multiple things going on in their lives and like different passions and stuff. And I think that students have that, like they're in school, they have a part-time job, and then like in the summer, some people leave to study abroad or they go home, and that helps us because we can like have a lighter staff through the summer, and then in fall, like kind of staff back up, and or even have people come back. Like we have that at Crybabies right now, where we have like 3 or 4 people that are gone for the summer, but will be hired back in the fall. So yeah, I was surprised. We have it's like a half and half, because I would say all our chefs at afternoon are all culinary like professionals. Maybe like 2 of them are in school right now. And then,
So related to, the employees, how is like the work culture? How do you kind of do management?
It's hard working with a lot of people. I would say I'm really proud of the work culture we have cultivated, especially over at afternoon. It's just older, so we've had like more time and experience to figure that out. And it's also daytime, so it's just like a different vibe. And yeah, especially right now, we have a really good team. Like everyone communicates openly. We definitely I like to deal with things like head on. So if something's going on, which I think is a good thing and a bad thing. I think sometimes I've learned that you need to just let it work out on its own and just kind of be there for support. And other times you do need to intervene and be like, all right, like what's going on here? Let's like mediate and let's figure it out. Yeah. I would say with how we're structured now, we have really good management in place for the first time in a really long time. Like very solid, emotionally intelligent, like hardworking people.
That's an important factor.
It's a very important factor, especially when you're going to be in a leadership position. So now I feel like when smaller issues arise, it's like, oh, Aisla and Evan and Phil can take care of that. Or, like I trust them to deal with it with some empathy, but also with a lot of structure. And then when it's like snowballing or they need some support, that's when we'll come in and like kind of back support with whatever issues occurring. So yeah, I feel very lucky. I mean, it's taken a long time to get there.
Yeah,
but
it's good. Yeah. Would you consider, because I know you said, you're friends with the top owners and stuff. So how do you kind of manage those relationships, but like also thinking about how they're also kind of competition and like what businesses you do consider competition?
I think when it comes to downtown, I don't consider anything a competition, because I think the more businesses that are down there, the more people come down and people bar hop and like, so to me, it's like, oh my gosh, please open up somebody, so that it's just like energy and liveliness. And so, yeah, I don't feel that way at all. I think when you're first starting out, you get a little like you feel a little bit like that because you're not secure. You're like doubting yourself and stuff like that. So, but now, yeah, I don't feel that way at all. It's actually really nice to have connections, because we can talk about like issues we're having just within the industry or with downtown in particular. Like I'm really good friends with Sita and Roman, who own Alpin. And so even being able to like go out to dinner with Sita and be like having this issue with this employee, like, cause only restaurant people have these certain types of issues. Yeah. So they're like, she's like, oh yeah, this is how I've done it. So that's really nice. So I don't necessarily see that.
It's more of a support system.
I want it to be. Yeah. I don't know if people feel that way about us, but I want to feel that way about other people. And even with afternoon too, it's like, we have our own thing. We do our own thing. We're very unique. Like,
yeah. And in that area,
there's plenty of space. Yeah.
I feel like afternoon kind of stands out.
Yeah.
In that area. Mm-hmm. So how has the area, and you can speak to afternoon and also to Crybabies and Baby Jays, how has the area changed since, opening? Because you mentioned there's a lot of fluctuation downtown. So what have you noticed? in the area?
For downtown, I would say when we first got there, it was kind of like regular downtown, how I remember it. I worked at Emiliano's for like 8 years when I was in high school. Like, you know, like, and it was like people were out, people were coming from the offices to get lunch. And I felt like that was still kind of there 2019. And then the pandemic changed all of that. And then you saw just like tons of empty storefronts, everybody just emptying out. I also think a problem with downtown is the rents are way, way, way too high. For like any small business, like especially when they built the hotel and all of that's empty below, it's a tax write-off for them to keep it empty. Oh. And that's why you see the student housing with the commercial properties down below just empty, because they can write that off as a loss. So I was talking about like how the city and the county could make stipulations, like if you're going to build X amount of units, you need to, have it's for rent, but it's like so expensive. So what I've noticed downtown is just like tons of like empty spots or even just buildings that aren't taken care of, So I think that Scott and Hal from the top, they take care of their buildings and like they paint them and they make them nice. And I think if they weren't there, downtown would be rough. So people like owe a lot to them for downtown, I think, more than they get credit
for a long time too.
35 years at this point or something. Yeah. And then with Afternoon, it was just us and Cypress and Grove when we first got there. Cypress and Grove was an old ice plant and they had bought that building and were rehabbing it when we moved in. One landlord owns a lot of that. He's like our landlord. He sold them that Cypress and Grove, that building, but he owns most of that neighborhood. Just like, I have thoughts about that, but we'll keep that.
I mean, you can share them. It's a safe space, I swear.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, I think that our landlord, the really good thing about him is he has tried really hard to get small businesses in these areas. Now you have to do all the work to fix the building. Like there's no help. So there's that, but he's like, because he's gotten these businesses in there and we were the first, and then we helped like get friends like Jermaine's and different things like that. So it's built up Grove Street to kind of be like a little pod, of businesses. And that is in part to the landlord because he didn't just sell his parcels to like developers for apartments. I mean, I think maybe one day he will, but for now he's like, so as landlords go, it's like pretty cool in that regard. So yeah, Afternoon's like really, it was just us and then it's grown from there. Our space was like a Captain Louis. It was like a fast food, seafood drive-through was what Afternoon was like in the 70s, I think, or 80s, 90s. And then it was like a million things. It was like a funeral home, a hair salon, and then it was vacant when we got in there. So yeah.
So I was looking through your menu on Cry Babies, and you guys have like a lot of nice like cocktails that are very interesting. So how did you kind of come up with the menus and the drinks?
Yeah, we have really good. When we first started, we had a beverage director, and he worked a lot in bars and stuff. So he would help come up with cocktails. We also take a lot of inspiration when we travel. So what we try to do, like before we opened Cry Babies, went to New Orleans and went to a bunch of different bars there and just like
research.
Yeah, we do research. Yeah, that's like the most fun part about owning a restaurant is your research is like eating and drinking. So, and we did that with Afternoon too. It was like influenced by places in Portland, and then Cry Babies was definitely influenced by like New Orleans and that. So yeah, and then we just work with either like Kyle and Jay have extensive spirits knowledge and drink making. So like they'll come with like classics they want to see on there and different things like that. And then we also do like menu development with the staff and be like, okay, everyone present what like seasonal cocktail you want to put on. We all test it and talk about it, tweak it, like people that are more experienced, and then decide which one goes on the menu.
So it's kind of collaborative as well.
Yeah, it's like crowdsourcing within our group.
Yeah. And then because it's half and half, you get a lot of perspective there.
Yeah. So. And different like flavor profiles and tastes. Because like if I designed a menu, I'd be like, everything's dry, tart, and like bubbly.
See, mine would be the opposite.
Yeah, so it's good to have like multiple palettes coming together and like making something where everyone could.
No, yeah, that's great. And where do you like source? Do you just get your food from like local sources and like?
For Crybabies, we mostly get it from distributors like Cisco, Cheney, U.S. Foods, and then afternoons more farms in town. We do Siembra Giving Garden, which is in Grove Street, Swallowtail, Nicoya Farms, and then stuff like in the summer, it's really hard because all the seasons are over for farming. So we'll have to do like Cisco or Rainbow Foods or different distributors to kind of balance it out.
Yeah, gotcha. So after Crybabies, then came Baby J's. So how did that kind of come about?
Baby J's is for us. It's for Kyle and me. It's named after our daughter. She's Baby J, Justine.
That's cute.
Yeah. So my family, my mom's a jazz singer, and like I was raised on jazz, and my husband got really into, surprising enough to me that it came back around, he got like really into old jazz and then obviously records. So he wanted to make an audiophile bar. We were offered the whole space when we first got in Crybabies, but we were like, it's too big. We just want this space. So it got cut off, and that was just a different bar for a long time. And then when that guy moved out of there, our landlords were like, do you want it? Like, do you want to move in there? And we were like, okay. Because of the doors, we were able to like not have to we had to pass like building inspections and stuff, but we didn't have as many licensing things because it was like, it's connected. It's like under the same umbrella with like liquor and food and everything. So we can use that kitchen to service Baby J's. And so it was kind of just like nice and easy. So yeah, Baby J's came about 2 years ago as a place for like young professionals again to go, and it actually has stayed that way.
So Crybabies is more college, and then Baby J's is...
Baby J's is like date nights. I'm gonna go and get one cocktail and like be pretty in there because it's like such a beautiful space. It was definitely the space we had like a bigger budget for compared to the others, and so we got to kind of have more fun with it. And it's also a little smaller, and have live music there, and just like kind of have a place that we can go that we want to. It's not like super crowded.
That's great.
So, yeah.
So you like, how do you go about finding live music? You know, locals or?
We have Tony Marquez, who's like our booking guy. He's one of Jay's like oldest friends, and he was in like the punk scene for a really long time. Obviously, we don't have those types of shows there because of the space, but he just knows music and people. And I think musicians in Gainesville are like really desperate for places to play. So we don't really have to go looking. A lot of them come to us, and then we kind of filter out and figure out who we want. So people will send us like their music and be like, what do you think? And then we do collaborations with Pulp Studios in town. And we'll have like our bigger shows that have tickets up front and cost a little bit more through them, their recording studio, and bring in a lot of like little indie bands and things like that. So yeah, I think just like knowing people, being in town for a while.
So you guys have like a variety of music. It's not just one genre.
Yeah. So we do we try to stick kind of to the same thing. So we have a lot of jazz. We'll do soul. We'll sometimes do like R&B, and then kind of like shoegazy, like stuff that fits in the space, because we don't have a ton of space.
So not hardcore rock.
Yeah. Insurance is a lot more when you do that too, which I've discovered. They're like, what kind of music do you have here? I was like, jazz only. And then we do drag shows. We do karaoke, themed karaoke, which our general manager came up with, because we really wanted to get people out on Wednesday nights.
People love karaoke, especially here.
It's really turned out well. I think we might do trivia like alternating, because we do it only twice a month, the karaoke. And then on the weekends we'll have like DJs that will do vinyl like through there.
Tell me more about the drag shows.
Yeah, so the drag shows they actually haven't been that well attended, which has been a bummer. We're going to try again in the fall, but it was What's the Tea? And it's kind of like a variety show-esque stand-up comedy / like drag show. So yeah, we usually have about 2 to 3 drag queens that perform it. We were doing them like once a month, but they've said they've seen a downtick in attendance even at the UC and stuff. So we're just trying to figure out how to like promote it a little better. I don't know if it's like what's going on in Florida right now that's like
could be
shadowing that. So yeah. But it's really fun.
I mean, I didn't know that. And I love that. Speaking of kind of, the current state of Florida, have you noticed, like, I don't know, has that affected the way you run your business or just anything? I mean, and does it worry you, where that's headed? Because it kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because since we're like private business and since it's Florida, they're like, do what you want to do. Even if it's, I think, what they don't want, who's going to know? I don't know. It's interesting because it's like, me personally, I don't agree with probably all of what's going on in Florida in that regard. But when it comes to like private sector, Florida is like,
they're great.
Hands off. They're great, which I'm like, because I feel two different ways about it. So it's like, this benefits me in a really odd way that they're just like, it's private business, do what you want. But then at the same time, there's this like undercurrent. So, but it hasn't, I mean, pandemic, we were affected in lots of ways all the time. But now, I mean, well, with the war going on in Gaza, we definitely are affected in some ways in that regard. Like, we let our staff be free to express themselves. And sometimes we have staff members that will wear certain things that when guests come in, they give us a 1-star review and say that we're like supporting terrorism and whatever else. So there's that, which undercurrent too. But we're always going to let people express who they are, always, in whatever it is, So yeah, we're just kind of like, everybody can just.
I mean, it's a very complicated environment, Florida is.
It is, yeah. But for us, we're just like, I want everyone to be happy at work, feeling fulfilled, feel like they can come to us and talk to us about whatever they need to talk to us about. And like, I want everyone there to feel that way. Yeah.
So what other kind of like benefits do your employees get? I know the knot, that kind of stuff. But.
Yeah. So for all businesses, they get a certain amount of percentage off at the sister businesses.
Okay.
They also get like shift drinks, shift meals, like every time they work. We have benefits that we offer, medical, vision, and dental to full-time employees. Weirdly, because everyone's like under 26, we don't have too many people enrolled, but I'm happy I can offer that. Yeah. So we offer that to full-time employees. And then a week of like PTO. And then, kind of just like discounts at our locations. And
So what are your goals for the future? Where do you see Crybabies Afternoon, Baby J's going? And do you see yourself opening another business, or are you kind of content with
We are opening another business, but that's against my wishes. But I did get on board. So, I mean, I think financially I have a lot of goals. We're still climbing out of a lot of debt from the pandemic. And we recently got rid of some like bad debt that we had. So I feel like we're like on our way to where we want to be. Mm-hmm. We want to eventually have like no loans, because right now we have like loans out, so that when that money comes in, we can actually like feel it. Yeah. It doesn't just like go away. And we've met some of our goals, which is to offer health insurance. That's new. To offer like over a living wage. We've had some challenges with Florida. I mean, it's like really good that it's happened, but with the minimum wage hikes, it's like, we've kind of had to adjust in this crazy way, because it's like, okay, well now with the hikes, this makes the manager like close to the hike. Okay. So now we have to hike the manager up, right? So we've had to like kind of leap more than we normally would. But now I feel like we're in a good spot, like with what the wages are for, the higher management and even everybody else. So that feels really good. So yeah, getting out of debt is a big one, just like as a business. But I feel like we've accomplished a lot of goals in the last like year with systems in place. I think having these good managers that are putting systems in place, being better at hiring, like those types of things. So that feels really great. And then, the last expansion is we have a roasting company, Afternoon Roasting, that provides beans to Afternoon. And a few other places. We're in Wards, and we're at Upper Crust and at Alpin. And our partner in that is our friend from Portland, who's like 15-year alumni of Stumptown Coffee. He used to open all the cafes like around the U.S. So he's been here since the pandemic. We brought him.
Gainesville?
Okay. We brought him in as like our roaster. He was supposed to be here like 6 months, to kind of like show us things, and then he stayed, and then he bought a house.
That's nice.
So I'm very happy to have him here, and he is opening up. It's basically going to be like afternoon cafe, like afternoon coffee in South Main.
Okay.
So in like a little 700 square foot kind of like almost to go thing. Okay. So that's another connection we have. I grew up with the Shatamas, and Hoach Shatama owns that whole area. So they've been like courting us to get in there, and we've been like, no, because I've been like, if we open another business, I'm getting divorced from every one of you. Because I have like 5 husbands really when it comes down to it. So I'm like, forget it. But it was like, they definitely are like doing way more than any other landlord type person would do. So I'm like, I want you guys to be happy. So you guys can do it. But know that I'm just, in that regard, I'll kind of be a silent partner. Yeah. Like,
whose idea was the afternoon roast? The coffee
to do the cafe. Yeah. Kyle and David George, who's our roaster. Okay. I think DG wanted to open a cafe always, and like, so it's his dream like coming true, I think. And then Kyle's gonna like build it out and do it with him because he can't seem to stop. So. But I'm kind of like, go for it, you guys, because I see like I have another like trajectory for myself. Yeah. So it's like, okay, like this is where your passions and your goals are. I'm not really going to stop them from doing it.
Speaking of your trajectory, do you want to kind of, just
like here, talk about all these businesses and
talk about how, that kind of your new path, changes.
Yeah. I think that, I think I kind of fell into the restaurant thing. And I mean, I've had a ton of personal growth just from having to go through it. It's really hard in a lot of ways. And so that I'm very grateful for. But I see the type of like passion around me for this type of work. And I've realized that I don't really necessarily have that. I like working with the people, and I like problem solving, but I think me personally, I'm like, I know that I want another career, and I'll always be there as like support and even like doing some office work and just that kind of thing. But I've always come back to social work-esque things. I want to work with kids. I want to work with teenagers specifically. And so I think things keep happening in my life, like reinforcing that. And I'm finally listening to it. So like my daughter was somebody actually at the restaurant at Afternoon. She is my daughter's like biological aunt. And she was like, do you know anyone who wants a baby? Da, da, da. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're like at a wine tasting. And I was like, but she knew I used to work in social work. So I was like, I'm actually seeing a bunch of my friends. They're all teachers and nurses and stuff. So I'll ask. And then I was just like, what if we do it? Like, I used to work in the foster care system. So I'm like, what if we just do it and help out for a little while? And the biological family seemed to be like, you're going to be helping out forever. And I was like, well, we'll just see. Like, we'll just, So we did that whole process. And I think she has an older sister, half sister, same mother, who's at the time was 14. And I got close with her, and we're still very close. And yeah, I just was like, this personal experience was just like influencing my thought process already about the type of work I want to do. And so I was like, let me just apply and see what happens. So I did, and then it surprised me, and I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I think, but I mean, it's like going to be 5 years, I think, before that transition fully occurs. And so I think that's like perfect for getting the restaurants in a really good place, kind of handing that off, and then pursuing my own, my own passion, like how my partners have.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's your turn.
It's my turn, yeah.
Do you have any questions?
No, you did great.
Okay. Well, I mean, thank you.
Yes, thank you.